Hey guys, I'm Pixel Dan, and this is a review of the DC Universe Classics Signature Collection, Doomsday Unleashed. That's right, it's the version of Doomsday that, well, we all wanted originally when the containment suit version was released not all that long ago. And Mattel has finally made good on the promise and delivered the ultimate version of Doomsday. So let's go ahead and check him out. As you can see, the figure is housed in a very large white mailer box that features that really cool bloody Death of Superman insignia right there on the front. And when you remove that, we are treated to some truly amazing packaging. The large box is shaped sort of like the S shield that is right there on Superman's chest, and all the way around we've got this fantastic deco of some up-close shots of Doomsday straight out of the comic books. And as you can see, there's a little cutout right on the front that shows Doomsday's face right there beneath it. Now this is a slipcover, and when you remove that, it reveals this full window box packaging where you can see Doomsday in all his glory standing in the middle of some rubble and some destruction, holding the cape of Superman right there in his hands. We got this really great packaging design that looks like buildings are behind Doomsday, and the back of it even gives us a description of the character himself. This is really gorgeous packaging, and I can for sure see a lot of people keeping this one mint in box just because it's such a nice display piece. But we're not going to do that. We're going to open this figure up and take a closer look at him. So immediately out of the packaging, you're going to note the immense size of this particular action figure, which is just as it should be since Doomsday is a huge hulking character. If you already have the containment suit Doomsday, you can expect about the same height here, with the figure standing right at about 10 inches tall from the bottom of his feet to the top of the ponytail that's sprouting out of the middle of his head. He is huge, and not only is it a tall action figure, but there's also a lot of bulk going on with this guy too. Now, one thing I will note is he's not overly heavy, which is probably a good thing considering his size. His torso does feel like it's hollowed out, and if you've got any of the larger Collect and Connect figures from the DCUC line, you should know exactly what to expect here, because this guy feels very similar to all those other large-scale figures. And that's just fine, because if he was solid, he would be probably quite top-heavy, so this guy balances out pretty well. And the sculpt on him is fantastic. I mean, the Four Horsemen did a wonderful job capturing the look of Doomsday as he appeared once that containment suit was completely ripped off of him. Now, we've been seeing this figure showing up at San Diego Comic-Con on display for what feels like years now, and it just didn't feel like we were ever going to get this guy, so it's really great seeing how this thing was translated into a final, complete action figure, and the sculpt work looks terrific all the way through. You got all of those great little jagged spikes kind of sticking out of his face. You got those jagged sharp teeth right there on his open mouth. And I always like the really unique kind of bone pieces going across his eyes there. It's a very unique and very cool look. He's also got those same large bone spikes jutting out of his back there, and also on his forearms and from his legs there. Now, you will note that all of those bone pieces that are kind of sticking off of his forearms and his back and even his knees are made of a softer, more gummy plastic. This, of course, is a safety standard by Mattel. That way it's not sharp and hard, and honestly, it's probably a good thing too because you don't have to worry about it snapping or breaking because it's too brittle. And even though it is a softer plastic, it still looks really good. Has a great paint deco going on there with some nice variants, so all the little cracks and the bumps and everything in it really stand out, and it's really got this great bone-like texture to it. All of the paintwork on this guy is really incredible. Even though most of his body there is just like a gray color, there's some really nice shading details, so it really brings out all of his muscle definition and everything. So all around, fantastic looking action figure. So let's go ahead and run down the articulation on this guy, and if you've had any figure from DC Universe Classics, you should pretty much know what to expect here. That head's on a ball joint so it can look up and down, roll all the way around, look left and right, pretty good range of motion, and you'll even note that the ponytail on the top of his head has the ability to swivel around, which is really nice. He's got ball joints at the shoulders, so the arms can go upwards, forwards, and backwards. You got swivels at the biceps there. You've got standard joints at the elbow and swivels at the wrist. He's got the ab crunch articulation. You've got the swivel at the waist there. You got really nice hinge joints at the thighs, so legs can go outwards, they can move forwards and backwards. He's also got swivels at the thigh cut there. And those gummy, softer bone pieces sticking out of his knees don't hinder the articulation of his knees whatsoever. They're attached to the lower leg, the knees still bend perfect there, and then you just have your standard ankle articulation that moves the foot up and down. Now, articulation is nice, but I wish it were a little tighter. You might have noticed specifically on the legs, at the hinge joints at the thighs, and especially on the ankles, the joints are all pretty loose. Now, like I mentioned earlier, at least he's not too heavy, so I don't have too many issues with him falling over or being top heavy, but you are going to have problems posing him sometimes in different stances because his ankles are a bit weak and he does have a tendency to fall down. A bigger figure like this would have benefited from having much tighter articulation, so it's a bit of a letdown that this figure seems so loose. Now, this massive Doomsday does include one accessory in the form of a tattered and torn cloth Superman cape. This is a really cool accessory. It's got the yellow S shield that's kind of just embedded right there on the cloth. And it's really cool because you'll notice it's got these little slits in it that are fit perfectly for the little bone spike sticking out of his knuckles. So that way you can kind of rest the cape there and have him posing with it, sort of like a trophy. Makes for a really cool little extra piece for posing your Doomsday figure on the shelf. Alright guys, it's comparison time. Here's a look at the new Doomsday Unleashed standing alongside the containment suit version that we got earlier this year. You can see that the sizes are pretty much the same, but it's really cool having both of these distinct versions of Doomsday finally. I really wish I had the old DC Superheroes Doomsday to compare this one to, but he definitely towers over that old one. I mean, just look at him standing alongside Superman, and you can see how this figure is completely massive when standing alongside the standard DC Universe Classics action figures. So you can really set up some fantastic battle scenes with Supes versus Doomsday, or any other members of the Justice League that you want. So there you go, my friends. There's a look at the brand new Doomsday Unleashed figure from Mattel. Overall, this figure is very nice, with my only real complaint being with the articulation. I just would have liked to see a larger scale figure like this have much tighter articulation, but everything else about him is really great. The sculpt is awesome, the packaging is superb, and at the end of the day, I'm just happy we finally have this figure. Don't get me wrong, I liked the containment suit version, but exactly like I said in that video, it didn't feel right getting that figure without this one, because let's be honest, this is what you think of when you think of Doomsday. This is the figure that everybody wanted, so I am so thankful that Mattel finally decided to deliver this figure to us, even though they told us that we would never get it. At least it's here. Doomsday Unleashed is sort of meant to be the final figure in Mattel's DC Universe Classics line. I feel like I've said that before, but that's what Mattel is saying about this particular Doomsday action figure. And he's supposed to be going on sale on MattelCollector.com in December during their Cyber Monday sale. They haven't actually announced the official date for that yet, but you guys probably understand how Cyber Monday works, so just be on the lookout for this figure to go on sale on that date on MattelCollector.com. Happy hunting, my friends, and until next time.